Good evening everyone, and welcome back to the World Online Racing YouTube channel. It's been quite some time since PC Tier 1 has been on your screens. 272 days to be exact was the conclusion of Season 18, and tonight we are jumping forward all the way into Season 29, oh my goodness, Season 21. My name is Dan Field, and of course, as always, I've been joined by Nathan Ritzers. Now, Nathan, we've got to do this all again. You might notice at home, we've had a bit of a late start here. And I was saying before the stream, it's been a long time since I've streamed anything. I forgot to click live. I thought it was on auto start. So we talked to ourselves for about 5-6 minutes or whatever.
Yes.
But nevertheless, we move forward. Nathan, how are you doing tonight?
I am perfect, Dan. Great to be back in, well, similar fashion as normal. Something not going right always happens here at WOR, whether it's Tier 1, Tier 2, Ironman League. Something always goes wrong, but, I mean, the good thing is at least we're here on perfect time because cars are just starting to go out on track for their interruns. But, of course, before we do that, we've got to have a look at the grid that we've got for tonight and, of course, the grid for the whole season, because once we go live, the people in the chat will realise that there is, I think, 14 drivers missing that should be here.
Yeah, it's quite the discrepancy, but I'll run you all through the Tier 1 grid. I won't put the game on your screen just yet. You can have a look at myself and Nathan. I'll run you through the grid. So in the McLaren, it's Alfie Butcher and Jake Benham. Barry Burman and Ishmael Fassi line up in the Ferrari. Red Bull is Jarno Opmeer and Frederick Rasmussen. Mercedes is Istvan Pukki and Lucas Blakely. Aston Martin is Duncan Hoffland and Nicholas Longe. Alpine is Otis Lawrence and Josh Edo. Haas is Joris Krozen and Reese Linton. Racing Bulls RB, whatever you want to call them, is Tom Manley and Ulas Oziildrim. Williams is Alvaro Caraton and John Evans. And then the Kick Sauber lineup is Thomas Ronhart and Julian Klaffenbach. Now, we'll run you through the grid for this evening. Tonight we've got 14 reserves, as Nathan said, so only 6 of the drivers racing here today are actually full-time drivers. Xander Van Dyken and Jack West are lining up in the McLaren. Those are both reserves. Leo Lund and Cameron Dowds are, I believe, both making their PC Tier 1 debut today, and they are in the Ferrari. Jarno Opmeer is here. He's a full-time driver, of course, and Gabor Zontos, I believe a Tier 2 driver, is lining up in the Red Bull. Istvan Pukki, of course, the full-time Mercedes driver, is alongside Will Lewis tonight. Shanika Clay is in the Aston Martin as a reserve with Nicholas Longe. He is a full-time driver. And then Alpine, it's an all-reserve Ben Shabakoni and Tamas Gao lineup. For Haas, surprisingly, it's actually both full-time drivers. Joris Krozen and Reese Linton line up on the grid today. Racing Bulls is Daniele Parodi, who is not only making his PC Tier 1 debut, but as far as I know, making his WOR debut tonight. I've looked through all the standings of all the tiers, and I couldn't find him anywhere. He's turned up here tonight. He's alongside the very experienced Philip Prejneda in the RB. And then Williams is Ikebana and Matthijs van Erven. That is a Williams dev lineup, racing fittingly in the Williams. And then the Kick Sauber is Tycho Hardy and the hometown hero of this race, Julian Klaffenbach, Nathan.
Yeah, we've got a very, very nice grid. I mean, I think the good thing about this, and what I mentioned in the past stream that we didn't do, was that there's so many reserves driving. They all have a chance to kind of work their way up to the top. And in some of the big grids, most of the reserves normally wouldn't have any chance of making their way up into Q2 or even Q3. Whereas here today, they all have that opportunity to make their way near the top. So it's great for some of these drivers to kind of get into the swing of things, and just say they do come back to Tier 1 in the future, they're used to the format, because normally it's just one qualifying session and straight into the race. When they're in this one, they've got nearly an hour's worth of qualifying. They've got Q1, 2 and potentially Q3. So it does get the newer drivers used to the format and just, how things run here in Tier 1. But I think either way, we're going to have a really good race, because this track itself, the lap times are, you can have probably 2.5 tenths separating the whole field on some occasions.
Yeah.
So even those who aren't normally here, normally driving Tier 2, they're not going to be that far off. They might be, 2 or 3 tenths off maximum.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to be a very hotly contested race, especially, well, qualifying at the very least is going to be hotly contested because, of course, it's the shortest lap on the calendar. So we are guaranteed to have times within hundreds, maybe even thousands of each other. And we know how they like to get close here in WOR. Let me bring you over to the game scene. Not many cars on circuit at the minute. Let's put Reese Linton on your picture, but he will be coming into the pit lane. So let's have a look at Jarno Opmeer. Of course, he's a 3-time champion here in WOR, I do believe. And of course, most recently in F1 Sim Racing, he's reclaimed his throne at the top in the Red Bull. He's definitely going to be looking strong here today. One of only 6 full-time drivers on the grid, Nathan.
Yeah, indeed. I think we expect to see a lot from Jarno Opmeer this season. Because he's always going to be up there, and in a grid like this, it gives him more of a chance to be at the top here. I mean, I don't think he's actually ever won here. I stole Dan's stats of who won each race, and from what I can see, there's no Jarno Opmeer. So I'm not going to take credit for the stats. I'll give them to Dan. But yes, Jarno Opmeer's never won around here, so it gives him a chance to win at. Well, he's probably won at most tracks, so this is probably like one of 5 that he's never won at.
Yeah, I mean, Jarno Opmeer, he's actually, it's a bit of a bogey track for him, I think, in WOR. Yeah. He spun out, of course, in Season 13. He has taken a podium here before in Season 15. But of course, most notably in F1 Sim Racing side of things, he took victory here before in 2021, 2019 and 2020. He took P3, so it's a bit of an up and down circuit for Jarno Opmeer. But of course, yeah, he's yet to win this race. And in fact, we've only got 2 race winners of this track on the grid tonight. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat who you think those 2 drivers are. Have a look at the timing tower on your side, and I'll let you know if you're right. I'll give you a hint. One of them was in Season 12, and the other one was the most recent race back in Season 18. So get your predictions, or not your predictions, but get your guesses in the live chat. And then, yeah, we will hopefully see some soft runners here very, very soon. Nathan, this circuit, absolutely fantastic. It's a riveting lap. You want to prioritize front end rotation, but minimizing drag. Of course, you've got to get those rotations, especially in towards turn number 3. But there are so many straights, so many heavy braking zones where you really do need to have that top speed coming into them, and it should make for some great racing, especially when you consider that the entire field is going to be in a DRS train. I think unless someone spins out, that's a guarantee.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in qualifying, because like we said, the lap times are that, that small of a lap time. You're in the 105. No, sorry, the main laps you're in 103s, potentially sneaking into the 102.89s. So because the lap times are so short, you've got to throw everything into your lap, pushing the boundaries as much as possible, because there's 10 corners. Some of them you're not going to gain and lose much. You've got your big corners such as like turn 1, turn 3, and then of course turn 5 through towards 9. That's just about carrying minimum speed. A lot of drivers can just do that naturally. And then yet again, turns 9 and 10 are 2 corners where you've got to sometimes throw that little bit extra in, go for a risk and just throw a bit more speed in than you normally would, and just hope that the car sticks, because sometimes you might need that 1 or 2 hundredths of a second to go from maybe P6 up towards P1. It can be that close around this track. And of course, heading into the end part of Q1 in around 5 or 6 minutes time, you're going to see a lot of drivers pushing those boundaries more than possible, which is why we tend to see a lot of track limit violations, because they've gone that. Sometimes it's not even a centimetre off, and that's of course your lap gone. So it's harsh, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though this is widely considered to be one of the easiest, if not the easiest circuit on the Formula One calendar, there are some very tricky corners where you've got to be super careful of track limits. The 2 that spring to mind is turn number 1 of the Niki Lauda curb, and maybe a bit more notably turn number 9, Jochen Rindt corner, especially that one on the exit, because you're carrying so much speed through there anyways. It's so easy to let the car run just that little bit too wide, and then unfortunately put yourself off the circuit and invalidate your lap. But we finally do have some cars on circuit on a set of the slick tyres. Julian Klaffenbach and Taiko Hardy, the 2 Kick Sauber drivers, Nathan, are out on circuit, led by the hometown hero, of course, Julian Klaffenbach, his home race here.
Yeah, indeed. I think he's the only one that's from Austria here on the grid. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I presume he's the only Austrian here. So yeah, hoping he can do his best. Of course, he's had a very up and down career here in F1 Sim Racing. He was, he shot near the top back on the F122 game. Got banished everywhere for the accusation of cheating. Came back on F124, yet again straight near the top, and well, now sits himself at R8G. There's many rumours that he'll be running for a spot in the main season for F1 Sim Racing for Kick-Sabre/Haas. So there's a big future ahead of Julian here. Of course, he also takes part in the Prodigy R1 Williams Series IRL in America. So, he's got a lot going for him at the moment as he has the young Austrian. And, well, on a grid like this, he's got to prove himself that he can be near the top. So he can try and go for a main seat next season. So let's see what Julian can do on his opening lap.
Here he comes then in towards the first corner at Niki Lauda curve. You really want to throw the car in through here, but not go over the sausage curb on the exit. Klaffenbach has nailed that one. DRS wide open through turn number 2, which isn't really a corner at all. And now in towards turn number 3 at I forgot the name already. I've got all the corners mapped out and I forgot them. Slight lockup for Klaffenbach. That might just be a visual error. Now downhill in towards Schloss Gold. Very prone to lockups through here, given the gravity is working against you. Out wide on the exit of turn number 4 and then through turn number 5, flat through there. Now it's up next, the Wirth curve, turn number 6 and 7, the double left-hander at the end of the second sector. It's a 44.110s. Look like he's been very aggressive on this lap, has Julian Klaffenbach. Will ride on board with him through the roller coaster that it is the final 2 corners. Barely a lift off through Rindt and then hardly on the brakes through turn number 10 as coming up towards the line. The time to beat for Julian Klaffenbach, that was an invalidation. I never actually saw him go off the circuit, but it was a 103.2, Nathan.
Yep, that was at the final corner, unfortunately, and the same happened to his teammate as Matthias van Erven sets the first lap. Never mind, it will be Ben Shabakony who goes quickest with a 103.112. Right to the top of the timings there for the Alpine team. A few more cars looking to start and complete their laps. And Cameron Dowd to the top on his debut. Jack West goes even quicker into the 102s, a 2.9. What about Shanika Clay? He goes second in the Aston Martin. Next we have Gabel Chontos in the Red Bull car. His debut as well this season. He goes into P4 with a 103.081. Pookie up into the top 3 and Longue to the top. And we've still got a few more cars to set their laps. Next one is Tamas Gal.
Tamas Gal is headed now up towards the line. What's it going to be for him? We know he's a very proficient qualifier, is the Hungarian, and a 1 minute 2.897 is the time to beat. Parodi, I think, set an invalid lap. Philip Presnader has gone into P11. Where is Jan Ortmeier? He is now headed through the final few corners now at the end of the the start of the third sector. We will ride on board with the Flying Dutchman looking to reclaim his WOR crown. They lost to Brendan Lee last season as through the final turn, DRS wide open for Jan Ortmeier up towards the line. It's a 103.164 for the Flying Dutchman. A disappointing lap from him there. Will Lewis wasn't able to get a valid effort on the board. Neither was Daniele Parodi and Leo Lund, Julian Klaffenbach and Tycho Hardy yet to get a lap time on the board. So it seems like a few hiccups at the start of this session, Nathan, but of course everyone will be able to come back into the pit lane and get another lap on the board.
Indeed, so a big shame for our bottom 5, and of course Philip Presnader, who also didn't get a lap time on, but I think he might be going for one at the moment. Heading through into the final corner here in the V-Carb, his teammate is Daniele Prodi, who hasn't set a lap. Where can Philip go? Up into P8, a comfortable lap for his banker in this session. So our bottom 5 are the 2 Kick-Sabres of Hardy and Klaffenbach. We have Lund, Parodi, and then Will Lewis in the Mercedes. And Dan, we all know that Will Lewis is a fan favourite, and I can guarantee nobody wants to see him finishing this session in 20th. Absolutely
not. Will Lewis needs to get his get himself out on circuit again and get a lap on that board, as Tamas Gal, Reese Linton and Jack West, they all believe that their lap time is safe. Nicolas Longue is coming into the pit lane now and is also, I'd imagine, going to retire. But you just look at this field spread and consider Tamas Gal is the quickest time at the minute. He is barely 2/10 clear of Ikebana down in 14th, who is in a spot of bother. When you consider the rest of the field hasn't set a lap time, barring Matthias van Erven, 1 minute 3.513, It certainly isn't a representative lap time. That just goes to show how close qualifying around Austria is.
Yeah, certainly. And I think everybody probably, I'd say Cameron Down are under pressure, all those in the 103s, because you've got the likes of Ika, Zander, Jarno, Joris, who are all in the 0.1s. They've certainly got the pace to be up into the 0.9s and 0.8s, and with the track getting better, as this session goes on, they're naturally going to find time anyway. So lots of pressure on those, I'd say. Cameron Down, so 7th down to 20th. They've all got to get laps on the board, and here we do see Daniele Parodi on track. I'm starting to think, Dan, is he going for a double out lap? Because if I remember correctly, this is one of the tracks where the minimum fuel is normally 3.5 laps, so you do get enough fuel to go around twice and then set that final run. So I think that might be the strategy here for Daniele Parodi and possibly a couple of the other guys who have gone out nice and early, and I don't think really it gives you that much of an advantage. I think you kind of see that you got less fuel. It's more psychological than anything, because most drivers don't even bother doing the double out lap.
No, and I mean, if you see on your MFD that you're lighter on fuel, you know that you're going to have that extra pace in the bag, but it is quite marginal around a circuit like Austria. As Daniele Parodi, he will get his lap started. Now, I'm looking on the mini-map in the bottom right-hand screen. There's a couple of drivers coming out on circuit. It might be a bit difficult for him to weave his way through the traffic, but it's a pretty wide circuit is the Red Bull Ring, so there shouldn't be too many problems for Daniele Parodi, making both his PC Tier 1 and WOR debut tonight. He has recently joined R8G for this game cycle, and of course he was racing on the console on the last game. So Parodi with a lot to prove here in PC Tier 1. He comes to the end of the first sector, swings the car through turn number 3, and now it's a downhill descent towards the end of the lap.
Indeed, and let's see what Parodi can do on his debut run here in qualifying. He's having to throw everything into this run. Of course, with the time we've got left on the board, if he does make a mistake here, he can slow down, build up the battery and go once again. But realistically, you want to get that lap done and dusted, and that's a big slide. That's off track somehow. He's valid, but I think he'll lift off and go again, because that will not be anywhere near good enough of a time that he needs to get through to Q2. But I think that was very lucky to save the car, because that could have been one of those where on another day that would have been the car spun round, and of course that increases your tyre wear, so that would have harmed him heading on to this next lap.
Yeah, Parodi will be having to go once again, although he might be putting into pit lane, or that could be Philip Prejnader. I think Parodi's coming back into the pit lane, and that will mark the end of his qualifying session. We are looking at Leo Lund making his PC Tier 1 debut. Of course, he is a Tier 2 driver filling in this evening. He's the Season 20 champion of PC Tier 2, so he's getting the step up here today as Klaffenbach sets a very competitive 1minute 2.924. Jabal jumps ahead of Istvan Pukki. I think Tycho Hardy's just come across the line in P10. Might not be safe with that lap time there. Here comes Leo Lund up towards the line. What will it be for the Ferrari reserve today? It is a 1 minute 2.9454, so a very competitive lap from him. There's a Williams off the circuit. Ika Boehner has spun it through the final corner when he was improving by almost 0.2 of a second. That is a heartbreaking way to end qualifying for Ika Boehner. He will come across the line, not had the momentum to start another lap. That is gut-wrenching for him, as Cameron Dowds is coming up towards the line now. He marginally does not improve on that lap. Nevertheless, Joris Krozen, I think, is coming to the line. He's in the danger zone, as is Jarno Uppbeat, by the way, in the drop, as Krozen puts himself into P3 and safe into the next session. But the big question is here, Nathan. Jarno Uppbeat, will he be eliminated?
It's going to be a close one. He's P16 at the moment, and still I think there might be one or two who can improve and go up into that top 15 themselves. So let's see what Jarno Uppbeat can do here as he makes his way through turns 5 and 6, and it's looking decent so far. He's only up by half a tenth, and at the moment that would not be enough to beat the lap time of his teammate Gabor Chontos. So let's see what can Jarno Uppbeat do as he heads into turn number 9, the penultimate corner. Van Erven crosses the line in 19th, Zander Van Dijken stays in 17th, and Uppbeat is invalidated. He's out of Q1. Jarno Uppbeat will not be making his way through into Q2.
That is big. Wow. Oh my word, Jarno Uppbeat eliminated in Q1. Welcome back to WOR PC Tier 1, everyone. The drama has only just begun. Gabor Chontos survives by the skin of his teeth, where his 3-time champion here in WOR, Jarno Uppbeat, bites the dust in 16th position. Xander van Dijken is out in 17th, as is both Williams in Ikkebana and Matthijs van Erven. And Daniele Parodi is the last driver on the grid. He wasn't even able to get a lap time on the board. At the other end of the field, though, it is Tamas Gal. We know how strong he is in qualifying trim. He sets a 1 minute 2.897. He goes quickest in the session with Nicolas Longue just behind him. But of course now, Nathan, the top 15 advance to Q2, and these Q1 times, they don't matter anymore.
Indeed, and that is a big shock there, exiting Q1. But let's have a look at the classification. So it was Gal ahead of Longue, Crozen, Linton and Klaffenbach in our top 5, with Jack West, Leo Lund, Shanika Clay, Ben Shabakonyi and Ist Van Pookie our top 10. Then we have Prejnader, Cameron Dowd, Tycho Hardy, Will Lewis and then Gabor Chantos making their way through. And unfortunately we did lose Jarno Opmeer, Xander van Dijken, Ike Baena, Matthijs van Erven and Daniele Parodi. So both Williams, a Racing Bull, a Red Bull and one of the McLarens out here as we go into Q2. But that means there's more opportunity for some of our reserves, because Jarno Opmeer, normally someone we have as a heavy hitter for going into Q3. Not always for pole, but always for a top 5. He's gone. So that's another space allocated for somebody else.
Absolutely, and we will be joining you trackside for the start of Q2 after a quick word from our sponsors at Gridfinder and Next Level Racing. So we'll see you in just a few moments' time. Welcome back trackside, everyone, for the start of Q2. The first laps are getting underway and Philipp Prejnader is the first to take to the circuit. He's never raced in Austria in WOR, but he has had 3 outings in F1 sim racing around this circuit. 20th, 15th and 14th are his results. Philipp Prejnader has had a difficult time at this circuit in the past, but of course there's always time to rewrite history and have new beginnings. Philipp getting his lap underway. Nathan, these are typically scrub sets, so don't expect too much out of these lap times, but nevertheless, It's good to see cars out on circuit.
Indeed, and getting that first banker on the board is perfect when you're heading into the next couple of runs, because at least you have something to fall back on just in case you make some mistakes later on. But let's see what Philipp can do here. Of course, as we've seen in Q1 and 2, you have to push the boundaries of the track so much as you head your way through that middle sector. And then, of course, the final 2 corners on the circuit, turns 9 and 10. Pull yourself over to the left, then hop over the curb on the right through turn 9. Don't run wide through turn 9 exit. Same again for turn 10's exit. Then running up to the line, then what will it be? A 103.419, of course. That will be a scrubbed time, as we do see Joris Krozen there, a 10th off. Jumps up into P2, a few more cars crossing the line. Jack West there up into 3rd. We have Pookie up to the top with a 103.074. And then Will Lewis there jumping up into P4 in the Mercedes. Shanika Clay, P2. Hardy's P3 and Gabor Chantos having a spin at turn 9. Very similar to what happened to Ike Baena at the end of Q1. You go through turn 9, you get a little bit unsettled on the exit, and then of course, initiating turn into turn 10, you just lose the rear completely.
Well, it's a good thing that this is most likely a scrub set of tyres for Gabor Chantos. Of course, I think he might have been put off slightly by Ben Shabakonyi. Also having a spin down at the final corner, he darted straight back into the pit lane, tried to save the embarrassment, but we caught him just at the end. Gabor Shontos, of course, one of 4 PC Tier 2 drivers on the grid tonight, and also one of 4 drivers who are making their Tier 1 debut here this evening. Gabor Shontos, he's currently P2 at the minute in the 2nd division in season 21. He won actually the first race of the season, which, if I'm not mistaken, was Spain. Don't quote me on that one there, but yeah, Gabor Shontos already showing his winning pedigree here in WOR, and now he's getting the chance on the biggest stage of them all. Another driver making his debut today is Cameron Dowd in the Ferrari, a former console champion. Of course, I always see the support for Cameron in the live chat by fittingly Cameron's dad, which it is very lovely to see. So yeah, Cameron Dowd, he's getting the screen time now, and he's in Q2. This is very impressive that the likes of Gabor Shontos, Cameron Dowd, Leo Lund is in here as well. These Tier 2 drivers, Nathan, they've made their way into Q2 in Tier 1. This is big for them.
Yeah. It is, and I mean, on a normal day, they probably wouldn't be racing here. You know, that's not anything against them, but normally you'd have all of our full times. If not, you'd have the F1 reserves to pull back onto. But if they can put a good performance in here tonight, if they can get into the top 10, maybe score a couple of points, there's then more of a reason for Luke to put them onto a full-time reserve list, and not one of those where they're like, right, we haven't got any reserves left, let's look at Tier 2. If they can perform well, they're probably going to be added onto the normal list, and they have more opportunities to turn up for Tier 1. And no matter what F1 esports teams say, they watch WOR, they watch PSGL and the other leagues, because that's where the drivers can prove themselves that they are quick enough to fight at the top. And I mean, Leo Lund is a perfect example. Was, just a Tier 2, Tier 3 level driver a couple seasons ago, did very well last season, same in other leagues, and now is a development driver for McLaren. So he's, really worked his way up near the top, and, he's not far away really from probably being in WOR Tier 1 main time himself.
And watch out for him as well around this circuit. Ironman League, of course, in collaboration with some Hungarian community. The Ironman League runs here in WOR. That is I think a one-shot session and then a 100% race. Leo Lund, when the Ironman League took to Austria a couple of weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, he took victory in that one. So watch out for Leo Lund. He is, of course, he also won the PC Tier 2 Season 19 Austrian Grand Prix. He's the defending champion of Tier 2. I mean, he's got a lot going for him, does Leo Lund, so watch out for him for a good spot in Q3. We have now got some more drivers out on circuit. Cameron Dowd being the lead runner. Then I believe Tycho Hardy. No, it's Julian Klaffenbach following in behind him. Then Gabor Shontos. Then Tycho Hardy. Then an Alpine and an Aston Martin of Shanika Clay. So now, Nathan, we are going to get to see some proper Q2 runs here.
Indeed we are. And I'm glad to see that we've got Shanika Clay back, because of course he's taken a bit more of a hiatus recently. I remember in F1 Sim Racing he didn't quite have the pace, unfortunately, last season when he drove, and I'm sure he said that he wouldn't be driving next season or something. Someone said that anyway. So if it is true, then it's great to have him back here on the grid. Either way, having some fun here in WOR Tier 1. And also it's a big shame not to see our champion, or our defending champion, Brendan Lee, here. Of course, won it back in season 18. Brilliant championship from him, and he is on the grid as a reserve, but unfortunately not making it here tonight. I know he was having a few equipment and game issues, so hopefully those can be all sorted and he can be back racing with us in the near future.
Yeah, can you believe that he's retired from F1 Sim Racing? He's been on the grid since the start. the first champion, the first two-time champion. I mean, he's come back and on the last game and he won WOR. And he was fantastic, was Brendan Lee. So it's going to be a real shame. We're going to miss him on the grid, but I'm sure at some point in this season he will come and have a little race with us. But we are watching Shanika Clay on his lap. Has never finished above P10 at this circuit here in WOR, and he hasn't won a race here since season 12, Saudi Arabia. Previously a part of the Haas, Williams and Aston Martin / Racing Point scheme. He's got a lot of experience that he's carrying into today, as Cameron Dowd sets the first quick time, a 1 minute 2.905 for him. We are watching Shanaka heading through the final corners. Julian Klaffenbach, the hometown hero, does a 1 minute 2.816 as Shanaka Clay flies through the final corners. Jabberconny has gone into third position, but Shanaka Clay with a 1 minute 2.751 blows that lap time out of the water, and he is the quickest driver in this session thus far. We've got a Mercedes of Istvan Pukki coming up towards the line. He can go quicker by just 2 thousandths of a second ahead of Shanaka Clay. Brilliant lap time there.
Indeed, and next we have Nicholas Longay to the line. Can he go quickest? Yes, he can by nearly a tenth of a second, a 102.658 for the Aston Martin driver. As we do see a couple more cross the line. I think Jack West there up into the top 5. Reese Linton up into P6 there, just ahead of Cameron Dowds. Next we have Tamas Gal, who of course is right at the top of Q1. Where can he go here for his first lap of the session? 15th. I think that might be an installation lap there for Tamas Gal, so we might be going once more in this session. But our bottom 5 at the moment does consist of Gabor Chontos, Tycho Hardy, Philip Presnader, Will Lewis, and then Tamas Gal. But look at the gap there between P10 and 11, 2 1,000ths of a second separating Crozon and Chontos.
Yep, that is the difference between a shot at pole position and elimination in Q2. Joris Crozon dancing on a knife's edge at the minute. And I asked the question earlier in the stream as to who the 2 drivers that have won this race previously are competing today. No one answered my question. I was gutted. Joris Crozon is one of them. If you can let me know who the other one is, have a look right at the top of the field. Maybe you'll get an idea. But yeah, Joris Crozon, of course, winning this race, Nathan, in Season 18. He made his debut in F1 Sim Racing with Haas in the most recent season of that. He was a reserve driver last season in Season 18, of course, but he finished P4 in the standings. You know, Joris Crozon, an up-and-coming driver, especially in the last game, I gotta say, from F1 23 and at the beginning of F1 24. I didn't really know his name, and I'm sure a lot of others didn't either, but certainly after his appearances in WOR, PSGL, then F1 Sim Racing, people know the name Joris Crozon now.
Yeah, certainly. You know, he had a bit of a poor season to start off in F1 Sim Racing, but I think Haas as a whole, there just wasn't much of a good vibe in that team, so none of them really did any well, unfortunately. Same goes for Tamas and Shanaka as well. But hopefully, this season, on this game, if they can find a bit of pace as a team, this could be a really good, you know, it could be a good sign for them to do a lot better, and potentially for Joris to also get himself near the top in F1 Sim Racing. He's had the pace in WOR and PSGL and other leagues, so there's no reason why on his day he can't do the same in the main season of F1 Sim Racing. But the next one to start a lap will be Philip Presnader, but he's just heading out onto circuit at the moment. And then we do have Julian Klaffenbach deciding that he's safe from P4, and I mean, that might even be a risk because it's only a 10th away to P10. So
it is a bit nervy, isn't it, for Julian Klaffenbach? But I mean, these guys know a lot more than you and I do, so who knows what is going to come of this session. Istvan Pukki was pretty close to the drop zone despite in Q1, despite retiring early, so you know, you're never guaranteed into the next session. We did have a couple of more laps come through whilst we were nattering on, whichever one you want to use. Will Lewis put himself in at P10, and then Tamas Gal put himself in at P8. That put Joris Crozon and Bench Jabberconny out of the bottom, into the bottom 5 and out of the top 10. But of course, everyone will have another run at a lap. Philip Presnader currently last without a representative lap time on the board. He needs to nail this lap, and in just over a minute's time, we will know the fate of Philip Presnader.
We'll have to see what he can do, and we'll see shortly if he's on a double 8 lap or a main run as he now heads his way up towards turn number 3. Shanaka Clay is retired, and so is Leo Lund in 6th place. I mean, that's ambitious to say the least from Leo Lund, but we'll have to see that if that one can work out. But as we do see Philip there up in that first sector, but of course the main time gain is normally in sector 2, isn't it, Dan? Turns 5 through towards turn 8.
Yeah, Absolutely, in turn number 4, very tricky to get absolutely right, but Philip Presnader, I think he's banged that one there, now keeping it pinned to the right hand side. No real visual markers for turn number 6. I think it's the most difficult corner on this circuit, and he dips a couple tyres into the gravel, so Philip Presnader did get that one wrong. He's still finding an improvement on his previous best lap time, but he'll certainly maybe have scrubbed a tenth or two off of his lap time with that escapade there. Nevertheless, through the final corner goes Philip Presnader with a minute and a half left in this session. What is his fate in qualifying? It's a 1 minute 2.919. Very cruel, considering he's got the same lap time as Will Lewis, but as it stands, Philip Presnader is in the drop zone. Will Lewis is safe into the next part of qualifying. However, Will Lewis himself is actually just getting a lap underway, so now we have got the final runs in this session, Nathan.
Yep, Benjamin Conye goes 3 thousandths quicker than Will Lewis, so we've got 3 drivers separated by 3 thousandths of a second, but I mean, that there is going to be, it's a bit of a harsh one for Benjamin Conye. I also don't think he's safe at all in P10, because you've got the likes of Joris, Gabor and Tycho who still need to set laps, who are currently down in that bottom 5. Of course, Will Lewis as well, heading down towards turn 4. He's currently on a lap, sits P11, 3 thousandths away, so he's got a big opportunity to try and jump up towards the top himself. As Reese Linton has a spin through turn 9, and that's, I think, the 4th time we've seen that happen today, Dan.
He's still safe as it stands, but Reese Linton does not get the chance to set a better lap time. Joris Krozen, his teammate, will be the next one to come across the line. He nails turn number 9 and indeed turn number 10, right on the edge of the track limits there for Joris Krozen to save himself in qualifying. He will get himself into a very respectable P3. Will Lewis will secure his spot in the next part of qualifying in P7 for the time being. Tamas Gal, now the driver in danger. Can he save himself? Indeed he can. Goes into P8. Cameron Dowds is the next one to come across the line and is in the drop zone, but he's improving massively on his previous best lap time to eliminate Reese Linton. He will do so, and Tycho Hardy will be the next one to come across the line. Does find 2.5 tenths of an improvement, but unfortunately is eliminated from this qualifying session. And Reese Linton, Nathan, without that spin, who knows what could have happened on his lap. And that is, I gotta say, gut-wrenching for the Haas driver. He is eliminated in P11. Ben Jaberkonyi, Philip Presnader, Tycho Hardy, and Gabor Shontos are the other 4 drivers out of this session. Leo Lund by 7 thousandths of a second, Nathan. He finds himself in Q3.
I mean, he could say that that was planned to finish just on the cusp and he made it through, but I think he was thinking, oh, we've got no chance. Once he saw lap times coming through, he was dropping down to P7, 8, 9. Gets in by 7 thousandths and probably got in by that spin from Reese Linton. And I think something to take away from that session is Cameron Dowds up into P6, only a tenth and a bit away from the lap time of Nicholas Longa. And also Jack West, I didn't notice, up in 2nd place. A brilliant start from him. And of course, the less drivers he's got ahead of him, the better. All I'm going to say.
Well done to Jack West. He was one of the drivers that was back out on the circuit and doing a final lap time, and a very respectable lap from him there. Of course, Jack West won one of the most peculiar races in WOR history. I think back in season 16 he won the Spanish Grand Prix, and it was like a wet/dry run. It was ridiculous, and that was a great race. I do remember it very, very well. And he's had a couple of starts here in PC Tier 1, but unfortunately he has had both DNFs, both time here at Austria. You got the results on your screen, which we didn't get in Q1 for whatever reason. Longe is the quickest in Q2 with Jack West in 2nd, 3rd is Krozen, 4th of this is Isvan Pookie, Shanika Clay is 5th, 6th is Cameron Dowds, Tamas Gal 7th, Klaffenbach 8th, 9th Will Lewis, and Leo Lund survives in 10th. Linton, Jaberkonyi, Presnader, Hardy and Shontos are the 5 drivers eliminated. So now, Nathan, we have got the 10 drivers ready to start Q3, and that means we got to put some pole predictions in there. I throw the question to everyone in the live chat. I'm pointing at my second monitor where I've got the live chat. I want to know your predictions for who is taking pole position today. Nathan, I throw the question to you. Who's taking it?
See, there's obvious options, but I'm going to go with something different, and I'm going to say Cameron Dowds.
Cameron Dowds on for a pole position. I'll bring the screen, the race scene back on your screens, and then you can take your pick. There's a very obvious one, or one that definitely sticks out to me, being Nicholas Longe, but I like to switch it up. I'm going to go with, I'm deciding between Julian Klaffenbach and Joris Krozen. I'll go with Joris Krozen to take pole position today. We'll read out some of the predictions in the live chat that we have got. Elias Pellerbach says Nicholas Longe will take pole position. Nathan Abdullah Boualesh says, I think Nathan is going to jump in and do a pole. Unbelievable stuff. Geordie Nesbitt says Will Lewis, let's go. I'm always a fan of a Will Lewis prediction. Keep them coming in, everyone. We'll read them out in a few moments time. We've got some outlaps on your screen. Janica Clay, Joris Krozen, Nicholas Longe and Istvan Pukki all out on circuit, Nathan.
They certainly are, of course, looking to get their first bankers on the board nice and early. And I think Janica Clay as well is another driver that's got a chance. He did a very good lap at the start of Q2. I think it was a 102.75, which is a very competitive lap for the start of a session. So if he can keep on working from that time, he's got more than possibility to try and jump up onto pole. And I do see as well someone saying Hannah Tuamala saying Shanika. Avesta says Nico for pole. Mine says Jack West. Seb, I just hope all the drivers have fun. That's the best answer of them all. Sparmilk says Leclerc pole. Well, unless someone's driving under Leclerc, I'd be very surprised.
and imagine if someone who would give Charles Leclerc their account, and then we just had him on the grid.
I think everyone would.
I think I certainly would. I'd let him take my spot in the comms box if it meant he got on the PC Tier 1 stream. The first driver on a lap, though, is Nicholas Longe. He has had some great success around this circuit. The Season 12 winner around here. Of course, he went on to be the champion of that season. He's taken a podium in both Season 13 and 14. But hasn't taken one since then, so definitely some redemption is due for Nicholas Longe. He will head through the final corner to set his first time in Q3 across the line, a 1 minute 2.630. Oh my word, I'm losing all the words out of my mouth. A brilliant lap time from Nicholas Longe there. Istvan Pukki is the only other driver to get a lap on the board. That meant Tamas Gao and Shanika Clay invalidated their run. It wasn't actually Tamas Gao, it was Joris Krozen who invalidated their run or made a mistake. They weren't happy with it, came back into the pit lane, and that means we've got Cameron Dowds. Your prediction for pole, Nathan? He's out on circuit.
He certainly is, and we'll be looking to set his first lap very shortly. We'll have to see what he can do in that Ferrari. Of course, his teammate Leo Lund, both of them reserves here for the Ferrari team, both making it through into Q3, so the Ferrari will be very happy having both their reserves up into that top 10 as he makes his way into turn number 1, of course, using all that curb on the exit without running over that white line, and then a long run up towards turn number 3. Pass through the long kink at turn 2, and it will be a 15.673. Very promising there for Cameron on his first sector. Then, of course, flicking to turn 3, back on the power straight away, utilising the DRS and the battery as you head your way down towards Slosh Gold at turn number 4. Once again, braking nice and late, trying to run as close to that white line as possible. And you see that every time they take right up to that white line, sometimes you think they're over, but they're just about in by millimetres, if that.
Yeah, these guys are just so good at what they do. I thought for sure that Cameron Dowds was off the circuit on entry through turn number 6. I thought he was off the circuit through turn number 8. I'm going to ride on board with him. Let's see how close he gets to the track limits off the exit of the final corners. Millimetres. Incredible! He has basically cut that final corner, Cameron Dowds. He'll come across the line now with a 1 minute 3.194. It's not a competitive lap time whatsoever for him. However, just unbelievable how good all these drivers are. I could never do this in a million years. I'm sure you, Nathan, couldn't do this in maybe a few less years than I could do it in.
Probably a few more.
No, you've got the pace on me. I'm certain of that. I am dreadful on the F1 games. And I'm sure all of our viewers at home are a lot better than you and I, so maybe it'll take 1,000 years to be as good as these guys. But that just goes to show how quick these grids are. As Julian Klaffenbach now, Nathan, he is through the second sector, and we've got some more laps coming out.
We certainly have. Of course, we have a mix of used and new tyres from our drivers, so we'll have to see what sort of That times they'll be posing on the board of 43.681. That was 4/10, I think, quicker than what Cameron Dowds did. So that tells me he's on a set of the new soft compounder tie-up as he heads into turns 9 and 10 now. Let's see what Klaffenbach can do, of course. An Austrian himself would love to be at the top for his home race. Heading up to the line, what will it be? P2
Wow.
by 5 thousandths of a second behind Nicholas Longue. Next we have Will Lewis. What can he set? It'll be a 103.0. I believe that is also a used set there. The next to cross the line, I think, is Leo Lund in the Ferrari.
It's Shanika Clay headed through the final corner now in his Aston Martin. Then it will be Jack West. I think next up, Shanika Clay will come across the line with a 1 minute 2.661. Here comes Jack West in his McLaren, a terrible second sector. He'll be going once again. Then Nicholas Longue, he is just starting a lap now. Leo Lund will be coming up towards the line next. That's 1 minute 22.129. And he will be going for another lap again. Here is Tamas Gal up towards the line. He will go the quickest of the bunch with a 1 minute 2.561. An emphatic lap time from Tamas Gal there. Joris Krozen, he comes across the line. Unfortunately invalid on that attempt. But unbelievable stuff there from Tamas Gal to go quickest and on provisional pole with just 5.5 minutes left in this session.
Certainly, and Jack West, I believe, is on a competitive run this time around, of course. I think went for a double 8 lap strategy there on that last run. How much is he up by? He's up by 4 seconds. So I think he might be on a representative run this time around. If not, we'll see him bail into the pit lane. But what a lap there by Tamas Gal to take that provisional pole by nearly 0.5 of a second here around the Red Bull Ring. What can Jack West put onto the board here in the McLaren? Up to the line, it's going to be a 102.774 as Nicholas Longue goes quickest with a 102.537, and Leo Lund there jumping up into P6 in the Ferrari, and Istvan Pukki up into P5 with a 6.92. But what a lap there by Nicholas Longue, and I'm starting to think here, Dan, this might be a bit of a two-horse race between Longue and Gal.
Yeah, that is incredible how close that is between the two of them. Let's have a look at the gap between the fastest time and the rest of the field. Tamas Gal is just less than 1/4 of a 10th of a second behind Nicholas Longue. That is incredible how close the pair of them are. Julian Klaffenbach is less than 1/10 off of Longue as well. Shanika Clay, Istvan Pukki, Leo Lund, they are beneath 2/10 of a second slower than Nicholas Longue, and that is 6 drivers all fitting into that gap. Jack West is a little bit further out, just under 2.5 behind. Then Will Lewis, Cameron Dowds and Joris Krozen, they haven't got a proper lap time on the board, Nathan, so we will be waiting to see what they can achieve as we head into now the final 4 minutes of qualifying. Nicholas Longue is the quickest man so far, but Tamas Gal giving him a run for his money. Still plenty of opportunity for this to change. And I've just noticed, Nathan, our 2 predictions in Cameron Dowds and Joris Krozen, 9th and 10th at the minute. We've had a bit of a shocker so far.
I mean, I'm going to give us an excuse, and that is that Joris hasn't done a lap and Cameron was on a used set of tyres, one of only 2 on a used set. So I think that's, you know, a fair excuse. They've got 1 shot, or possibly 2, depending on when they go out, to try and go for pole position. I think they've both got a very good chance. I think Cameron, normally, I wouldn't say he's got a chance for pole, but given the lap he did in Q2, he's certainly got the pace. And Joris, I think, is always one you can bet for pole position. I remember, I think it was season 16, he had at least 2 or 3 pole positions in that one season, and I think that was his first season. And if I remember correctly, then was it on his debut at Mexico he got pole? So that's in my mind for some reason.
I know Reese Linton's been on pole in Mexico.
The other Linton, that got it on his debut, I think.
Yeah, the other Haas driver, and then Reese Linton, he fell right off the face of the planet in that race. And I'd imagine that, you know, given how competitive this grid is, being on pole position today, especially around a circuit like Austria, does not mean anything when it comes to the race, because you've got to get around the circuit 36 times whilst keeping 19 other drivers behind you at bay. That is ridiculous. It's a big ask for the pole sitter, and we'll just have to wait and see who it is. Cameron Dowds is the first driver on an out lap, then followed by Jack West, then one of the Mercedes of Istvan Pukki. He's being overtaken by, I believe, Leo Lund, that is. Yes, it is the second Ferrari. Then Will Lewis is following in behind. Tamas Gal and then Shanika Clay bring up behind them Julian Klaffenbach, and then Joris Krozen, Nicholas Longate. Very interesting to see, Nathan. Not out on circuit just yet.
No, leaving it a little bit late in this session, as we do see Cameron Dowds now begin his final lap of the session. Of course, has saved himself time, and if he does make a mistake, he can choose to go again. But of course, you want to kind of get that lap done and dusted and not worrying about having to go once more. Let's see what he can do heading up to the top of turn 3 at the hill. He's up by 30 thousandths of a second here on his lap, so looking decent so far here for Cameron Dowds. But of course, as we've said many times so far, it's at no, never mind. I was going to say it's the middle sector where he's going to gain the most, but he's chose to lift off to go once more. So I'm not sure who is next on a representative run. I think it might be Leo Lund in the Ferrari.
Indeed it is. Jack West has invalidated his lap time, so he is going to go once again. Leo Lund is the next one, followed by Istvan Pukki. The pair of them are right in the mid-pack of the top 10. Leo Lund in at 6th. 5th is Istvan Pukki. We'll see what the delta is for Leo Lund. He's improving by just over a 1/10 of a second. Istvan Pukki behind him. We'll see what his improvement is at the line as we watch the Ferrari driver now head through the final corners of Rindt and Red Bull Mobile, throwing the car through the final turn and then right on the limits of the circuit. He will come across the line. Leo Lund with a 1 minute 2.521, immediately dethroned by Istvan Pukki. An incredible lap time from him there. We'll have to have a look at Shanika Clay. He is now headed through the final few corners, but Tamas Gao has spun. Tamas Gao drops the ball in the final sector. He will not be able to get a lap time on the board. Shanika Clay does not find an improvement. Very unfortunate for him there. Julian Klaffenbach will be the next one to come across the line. Just a 10th off of Istvan Pukki at the minute. Can he get a good lap time? Can he steal pole position in his home race? He finds an improvement, but doesn't find an improvement on his position. Joris Krozen will be the next one to come across the line. And then do not forget about Nicholas Longate, the man who started his outlap with 1 minute 30 left to go. He is still out on circuit as Joris Krozen will come across the line now. What will it be for the Dutchman? A 1 minute 2.799. A disappointing run from him there. Cameron Dowd still on his run, but let's have a look at Nicholas Longate, currently on a 1 minute 2.537. Purple in the second sector, just 0.3 of a second off pole position, but he's invalidated it through the final corner. Nicholas Longate drops it once again like Tamas Gao at the final turn, which means Istvan Pukki, unless Shanika Clay and Will Lewis has anything to say about it, which they do not, Nathan, Istvan Pukki is on pole position here.
What a lap there by Istvan, and Leo Lund, P2 as well, in the Ferrari. And I've also concluded, Dan, I don't think we should be allowed to make predictions anymore.
No, we've... Oh dear. We've got no excuse this time. Really, that is poor from us.
Oh dear me. No, never mind. We're not gonna try and jinx them anymore. Let's just not hope for good for Joris and Cameron, so it goes the other way around for the race, because I don't think we've been very fair to them so far this evening. But what a qualifying session we've had there. A 10th separating the top 5, just over a 10th separating the top 6, and I think we've got a very good race on our hands, because everybody in that top 5 are all very similar on pace anyway.
Yeah.
So I think they've all got a shape for the Grand Prix win, but then of course we've got drivers further behind as well who will be looking to make their way forward anyway.
Yeah, it's a brilliant end to qualifying there, and hopefully we'll get the results on your screen. But let's talk about Istvan Pukki. I mean, we talked about Joris Krozen winning the last race here in season 18. Istvan Pukki was the one that came second in that race. But Istvan, he hasn't won a race since season 15 in Saudi Arabia. We're not going to get the official top 10 on your screen. I'll bring you back in to the intermission screen here, so you can have a look at myself and Nathan for the last time before the race gets underway. But how about that for a qualifying session? I mean, Istvan Pukki wasn't really in the fight for most of qualifying.
No.
He was certainly strong and in the top 10, but yeah, we didn't really expect to see much from him.
No, and he came through at the final moment. Perfect time to try and take that pole, and he did take it, but only by around 15 thousandths to Leo Lund. So a great lap there by Istvan, and we have got, as usual, our qualifying restarts heading into the race. And this season, it's a different reason. So in the last game and whatever, it was because of the little penalties we got through, and then I think at one point it was just because of the lobbies glitching. But this game it was because of the whole tyre compound situation, I believe. I don't know how it works, but yeah, it's about having enough. You go in the softer compound allocation thing, and you have like 5 tyres of softs. You go on harder, and then you get less or something. I don't know how it works. It's confusing, but they don't want to give each other advantages, so they do restart, so it's fair.
Yeah, very fair indeed. So we've got a little bit more time to just talk about that qualifying session and talk about the race that we've got up ahead. And the Red Bull Ring always provides a banger here in WOR. We've seen 7 iterations of this race. We have, in all 7 seasons so far, Nathan, Austria has been on the calendar every single time. It is a staple of the grid. And in those 7 races, we have had 6 different winners. Can you believe it? Of course, season 11, Jake Benham won here. He went on to become the champion of that season. Season 12, Nicholas Longe won here. He also became the champion of that season. Round number 1 in season 13, which is of course round number 1 today in season 21, that was taken by Lucas Blakely. Then season 14, Ishmael Fassi won. I believe that was the final or the penultimate round of the season. Season 15, Lucas Blakely was our first and only repeat victor around this circuit. Season 16 was Thomas Ronhar, who took victory around here. And then season 18, Joris Kroos. And of course, season 18 was the last season that we had here in PC Tier 1. Nathan, we are back. After 272 days since the conclusion of Season 18 PC Tier 1, we are back for Season 21.
We are. It's great to be back once again. Of course, we've had a long hiatus. We missed Season 19 and Season 20, but we're back once again. And hopefully, once we finish this season in a few months' time, we do get to come back again shortly after that as well. I don't want another 1 year of waiting before we come back. But Dan, I think we might have time to have a quick look at the calendar for this season, because I think it is a very, very good calendar. One of the best we've had in a long time, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and here it is up on your screen. Of course, round number 1, Austria, where we are at today. Next week, we'll be headed to Saudi Arabia. Then the week after that, for round number 3, it is Australia. The 24th of August is Japan. Then the 7th of September is Sao Paulo. I believe there is a break week inserted in the middle there. Mexico City is round number 6. Then at the halfway point of the season, we have got Great Britain on September the 21st. And then round number 8 is Bahrain on September the 28th. Beginning October, it is Abu Dhabi, round number 9. That is a very strange place for it. And then China is round number 10 on October the 12th. We've got a break week in between then and the United States race. I'm not sure which United States that is. If I had to guess, Nathan, that would be Texas would be going to. Round number 12 is the Netherlands, and then round number 13 is Qatar. There's a break week in between round number 12 and 13. And then this is a big one, the final race of the season, round number 14 on the 23rd of November, Belgium. Very interesting calendar. I know there's been a lot of features of all these circuits on the F1 sim racing calendar. Very popular. So I think Las Vegas might be the only one from the last couple seasons that doesn't feature on this calendar. So very popular with the drivers, I would imagine. It'd be very useful for their practice in the upcoming F1 sim racing season. But yeah, you're absolutely right. What a calendar.
It is a very good calendar. Indeed, and I can't wait to see what happens, especially with Belgium being our last race of the season. That's something a little bit different to what we normally get, but either way, I think it will be a great way to end it off, especially if we have a championship battle, because Spa is always interesting.
Oh yeah, Spa always comes up big here in WOR. Having a final look at the calendar, everyone in the live chat, please do let us know if there's any race in particular that you are looking forward to the most. It is very difficult for me to actually think or consider which one I'm most looking forward to, because they're all very exciting. Mexico always produces a good race here, September the 14th. Belgium, the final race of the season, that'll be a very fun one. Great Britain always comes up good, so does Sao Paulo. I mean, I just think it's a great calendar, and I'm sure everyone else does in the live chat. Welcome in to everyone. We'll get that off your screens, and you can have a look at myself and Nathan once again. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome back to WOR PC Tier 1. I'm so happy to be back here because it's been too long. I keep bringing it up. 272 days. That's what, 9 months or something since the last time we were here.
Yeah.
It's around about, I think, maybe 1 day. I think if this race happened tomorrow, it would be exactly 9 months since, because it was November the 4th that we left off on. It'd be August the 4th tomorrow. So yeah, almost 9 months missing from WOR PC Tier 1. Brilliant. Hello.
You forgot one question that you always ask the chat.
What have I forgotten?
Where are they watching from? Where are they watching from? You haven't asked that yet.
We pride ourselves here in WOR on being the world online racing. Let us know where in the world you are racing from. Watching from. Please do let us know. I forgot all about that. And I think surely the iMine comment has brought that one to your attention.
Yes, it did.
Australia, his home race. We've got Matthew Roberts in the chat saying, had enough of Danfield waffle watch along now. You're ginger, so I don't really care. We've got a Ghanaian watcher at home, Farouk Salifu. If you're ginger, by the way, there's no problem with that whatsoever. Rohit Kumar from India, Renando Berger from Namibia, Hannah Tuamala, hopefully I got that one right, from Finland, Dennis Langrock, really making sure that we know he is from Germany, XVZ is from Poland, Travel with Mon Amour is from Sri Lanka, FVR Jake is from Singapore.
No, he's not.
He's not, he's lying. Brilliant.
No.
FBR Jake, let us know where you're actually from, because I'm not going to accept
Kent,
any lying. Kent.
Or something like that. I can't remember. He's from London, and he doesn't like it for some reason.
I'm from London as well. There's no problem with being from London. Ferrety is from Germany. Cameron's dad, and indeed Cameron Dowds. The top of Scotland before you drop into the sea. I didn't even know you got internet up in the very top of Scotland. Thomas Vita is from Italy. Killer Con from Nauru. I have no idea where that is. Joshua is from England, specifically England, not England. And Antonito is from Dominican Republic. Wow, I mean, this is okay. Otis Lawrence, funny guy from Venus, Nathan.
Venus, but well, that's an interesting place, and I found out where Nauru is. It's a country in Oceania. It is located to the northeast of Papua New Guinea, and when I say it's in the middle of nowhere, it is literally in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around it for thousands of miles.
Wow.
Never heard of that place before, so there we go. We've learnt a new country, Dan.
That is brilliant. Thank you for being... Thank you to KillerCon for educating us. Do a couple more. Matthew Roberts was from Ben Zane Iqbal Land. Very lovely stuff. Bolts is from my mum's basement. We don't have a basement in our house. So, yeah. Wow.
Nauru.
Nauru. Okay. That's our pronunciation, Nathan. That's our Englishness coming out there, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
We can't pronounce anything at all. And if you're like Matthew Roberts, our good friend WOR Matthew, I think he used to go by. If you are like him, you are having enough of our waffle watch along. We can bring you trackside. The formation. I actually don't think we have a formation lap here. I'm not too sure, but we are on the grid in a very sunny, clear Red Bull ring, awaiting the start. Nathan.
We are, and strategy-wise, I always love to go to the race director. Most of our drivers are on a set of the hards, bar one, which... Oh, no, never mind. They're all changing to mediums now. So we've got mediums and hards being used on the grid. And just a quick thing before we get into the action, we have been told by Jona Martins we will expect 1 and 2 stops in this race. So a little bit like what we saw earlier this afternoon between the two McLarens of Oscar and Lando.
Very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to this race. I hope everyone in the live chat is looking forward to it as well. WOR is back, and I'm very happy to be here. Still getting to grips with the streaming once again. Of course, forgot to start it. That might be a bad thing if you forget to start the stream. But I mean, I don't want to jinx it too early, but it seems like it's been a pretty good stream so far, Nathan. Touch wood, of course. You know, don't want to jinx anything. But now we've got 36 laps of the high-speed Red Bull Ring. They'll be reaching top speeds just by themselves, without any slipstream, without any DRS, or I think with the DRS actually, of 323 kilometers per hour, headed down in towards Schloss Gold, as here we are about to get underway. And there we are, Istvan Pukki will lead Leo Lund heading down in towards turn number 1 for the very first time in this race. Pukki clears the Ferrari driver through the first corner, and it seems like everyone has got through all nice and tidily as Pukki leads them up the hill, followed by Lund, followed by Longo, who's hot on the heels of the Ferrari. Lund will go defensive to the inside. Longo has to go the long way round. Brilliant racing all around as they head in towards the second sector for the very first time in this race, Nathan.
Indeed, a great start by many of our drivers, and yet again Longo on the attack to the outside into turn number 4, has a bit of a lock at the reins as he makes his way through, but carries a lot of speed on the exit, but it's not enough to make a move and still stays in P3 further back. We do see Filip Presneja making moves. He's moved up to P15 now, just on the back of Gamble Chontos. Cameron Dowds as well having a battle with Reese Linton, a bit of contact further ahead, and Jack West now makes one move. He's looking to try and make 2 and possibly jump up into P9. He's on the outside of Dowds in towards turn number 9. Can he get ahead? This could end quite badly for one of them, or even both, as they make their way through. Dowds stays into that top 9 for now, but Jack West immediately up the inside, back down towards turn 1, and Shanika Clay now is on the attack.
Yeah, this is brilliant racing all around as they head in towards the first corner for the second time. Jack West has finally got that position back on Cameron Dowd. Shanika Clay, as you mentioned, he's made the move on Crozen, or he's right on the attack now of Tamas Gao in towards turn number 3 for the second time in this race. Now, of course, DRS is enabled, and that will throw a spanner into the works as Reese Linton and Cameron Dowd, they scrap it out, headed down in towards Schloss Gold for the second time. Will we see any late moves up the inside? We go back to the front of the order to see Istvan Pukki slightly stretching his advantage to Leo Lund in behind, and I think Nicolas Longue might be getting a little bit impatient. You can see how close the Aston Martin driver is, right to the rear of Leo Lund, sitting in his former seat. Now Nicolas Longue draped in green. He's liking the new change of scenery, and he's on the attack, headed in towards the final few corners.
He certainly is, and also, once again, Shanika Clay closing in on the back of Tamas Gao, and also been a frustrating start for Jarno Opmeer, only up 1 position, and sits in P15 as Presneda looking to make a move into turn 1 ahead of Benjamin Konyi. This could end in contact as the Red Bull of Gabel Chontos nearly gets taken out there by the V-Carb, and once again they're heading side by side up towards turn number 3, but I want to focus once again on Nicolas Longue up the inside of Leo Lund, looking to get ahead, looking to jump up into P2, and they're side by side as they make their way down towards turn number 4. And it's been 3 laps of try again for Nicolas Longue. Can he finally make that move and jump up into P2? He's side by side, he's just an inch ahead of Leo Lund, who's going to try and stick himself side by side in towards turn number 5 and 6. And, well, I think he was hoping to go for the move, but decided to back out and try again another day. That could have ended in contact if Leo Lund didn't back out there, but the move being made for Nicolas Longue up into P2, and now can set his sights on either sticking behind Istvan Pukki or going ahead and controlling the race.
Yeah, Nicolas Longue made sure that Leo Lund didn't get any silly ideas of going up the inside through turn number 6, slamming the door in through the left-hander. Istvan Pukki with the fastest lap taken away by Nicolas Longue, and these two will be having a very nice and lengthy scrap throughout this race. Let's check in with Jack West down in 9th position, right in the thick of things. He's on the back of Will Lewis. And we still got some more battles further up ahead. Shanika Clay is closing to the rear of Tamas Gao, who's being closed in on by Joris Crozen, as there's a Williams going up the inside. Now it's a Mercedes going up the inside of Joris Crozen. Will Lewis tried to make the move, but actually lost out now to Jack West, and they still continue scrapping further up ahead, because here comes Crozen around the outside of Shanika Clay down at Schloss Gold. He'll have the room along the outside line, but Shanika Clay with a slight bit of momentum. If Crozen can keep a wheel up the inside, he's got a fighting chance here through. Now the double left-hander, Joris Crozen, making his way up the grid from 9th on the order. He's found himself now in P6 and ahead of Shanika Clay. That was great, brilliant racing between the pair of them.
Indeed, what a start here for Joris Crozen. Of course, Shanika's been very quick for these first couple of laps. So great to see Joris there making moves and jumping up into P6. And as we continue our way on, it's Nicolas Longue with the fastest lap of the session, and Leo Lund at heavy risk of losing that DRS advantage as Ikebana into the pits early will unfortunately inherit a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which is not what he would have been hoping for. They're heading into the pits there for his, what I presume would now be, a two-stop race to the end as Shanaka Clay and Jack West there, I think, heading into a bit of contact temporarily. And no move being made there for Jack, but we do see Will Lewis closing in along with Cameron Dowds, who currently sits in P10 up the inside for Lewis, trying to get up into P8 ahead of Jack West, who will fight this position because he wants to be still in that top 8 as they make their way into turn number 6, still side by side. Ooh, a bit of lag there for both of them, and they're now inside each other in towards turn 7 and 8.
And luckily they've come away unscathed, but I have noticed a couple of lag issues so far today. There was a little bit of lag between Nicholas Longe and Leo Lund. Hopefully nothing happens that puts anyone out of the race. A little bit of ghosting isn't the end of the world, as now they come through with more fastest laps being posted. Nicholas Longe through turn number 1 is right on the rear of Istvan Pukki, and with the DRS now enabled down the longest straight along this circuit, this will be an easy move around the outside. Pukki really doesn't have any fight for it whatsoever, but now he will assume second position and slot in behind the Aston Martin, pick up the DRS, and also just allow for the Frenchman to punch a hole in the air for him, save some tyres, save some fuel as well. And what really happens in a lot of these races, Nathan, where we see the DRS train stemming from first all the way down to 18th, is you want to be the second or third in line. You don't want to be the one setting the pace, but just following slightly in behind there.
Certainly is. Here we have Cameron Dowds up the inside of Will Lewis, forces Lewis to go wide, and through goes Cameron Dowds up into P9 in that Ferrari. And what a start Ferrari are having. Same for Aston Martin, they sit P1 and P7. Ferrari 3rd and 9th here as we head our way onto lap 7 of the Grand Prix, and Daniele Parodi as well, who's had a very quiet start to this season. He sits down in 20th after making that early pit stop. He'll be committed as well onto a two-stop strategy, the same going for Ikebana. And then of course anybody else, I think, before lap 13 are probably on a two-stop. If you're extending to lap 17, 18, 19, you're probably looking at that one-stop strategy. And then once at the front, yet again, no moves being made at all between Nicholas Longe and Istvan Pukki, because them overtaking each other at this point means nothing. They might as well keep swapping. They could just choose to stick behind. The only time you'll see Istvan really going for a move is if Leo Lund is close behind, or if Istvan is thinking about making a pit stop.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of just a stalemate for these guys. They want to just, save their tyres as long as they can, maybe go for the one stop. But of course, we know that on this F125 game, that both a one-stop and a two-stop strategy are very viable in a 50% race. Let's have a look at the position change in this race to see the biggest movers. Nicholas Longe started in 3rd position. He's made his way up into the lead. Joris Krozen has gained 3 positions in this one. Will Lewis has dropped down 3 spots. Gabor Chontos, in his PC Tier 1 debut, Nathan, is having a brilliant time of things. He's up 3 spots in this race. Jabba Connie's lost a couple as well. So we've had some moves throughout this race so far, as now Istvan Pukki will retake the lead of this race ahead of Nicholas Longe. No real fight there, a big lock-up for Pukki. You won't really be doing that too many times as this race continues along. Parodi with the fastest lap of the race. A very interesting strategy for both Ikebana and Daniele Parodi, Nathan. I've got to say, I didn't see either of them take any damage. Granted, I didn't see them at all in this race, but we'll see how this pans out for them.
Certainly, I think, if they can play this strategy right, they've probably got a chance of moving their way up the field, but of course it depends what sort of strategy these other drivers choose to go for. And I think, yet again, we're being shown on this game how difficult it is to overtake, because Jarno Opmeer is still stuck in P16 and hasn't made any positions on track. The only ones that he has technically gained is when Ikebana and Daniele Parodi, who at one point were ahead of him, went into the pits and have dropped down to the back. So not the best start for Jarno Opmeer, and it just proves once you're in that mid-pack, it's so difficult to really move forward and get some positions done. The only reason why you see some of those near the top get moves is because a lot of them aren't pushing as much, whereas when you're a lot lower down, the drivers further down are trying to push to keep up with the train. So just makes it really difficult for Jarno Opmeer to make some moves, as the hard tyres at the moment aren't the quickest tyre to be on, as Daniele Parodi takes the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in P19. And to be fair, that gap is coming down quite nicely. It was 14.5 2 laps ago, it's now 12.9, so it does seem that those hard tyres currently are very quick, but of course, they've got to do that extra pit stop, so they've got to make everything back now in this and next stint.
It seems like some routine running here for the top 18 in the pack, that they're all going to be going for the one-stop race. They should, if they wanted to go for a two-stop, they'd be pitting maybe around last lap or possibly now. So we might see someone come into the pit lane if they are deciding to go in. And indeed, that is what we're seeing. Cameron Dowds, at the beginning of lap number 10, decides that his medium tyres have had enough. Gabor Chontos and Jarno Opmeer both coming to the pit lane. The two Red Bulls double stacking. This isn't good. Let's see Jarno Opmeer here. And that is painful for the Flying Dutchman. As Gabor Chontos gets his car serviced, Jarno Opmeer will double stack behind his teammate. A little bit of a glitch going on there, but yeah, the Flying Dutchman loses a whole heap of time. That is not how he wants to start off his season.
No, that was odd there from Jarno, opting for that double stack. I presume we didn't expect to see Gabor Chontos in the pit lane, but that is not ideal for Jarno Opmeer. Makes his day from bad to worse, to even worse now, unfortunately, for the Flying Dutchman, who is not flying this evening. But of course, if this strategy can work out and if he can throw some nice pace out, there's no reason why he can't make his way up into that top 10 as this race goes along. And is Istvan Pukki pitting? I think he is. He's committing to that inside line. So our race leader and Nicholas Longay are both in the pits, and that tells me, Dan, that they're also committing to that two-stop, and they want to be saved from that undercut from Daniele Prodi downwards.
And this is getting quite exciting. We're seeing a split now throughout the field. Leo Lund, Julian Klaffenbach, Tamas Gal and the rest of the pack, they're all staying out on their set of the mediums, and they'll be pitting around about 15, 16, possibly a little bit later than that. As Istvan Pukki, Nicholas Longay, all those guys who are 13th downwards, they have all decided to change tyres. And this creates a couple of gaps in the field. You see Reece Linton in P7 at the minute. He's 1.1 seconds behind Jack West. That's because Cameron Dowds, who has just made a move actually on Ikebana for P16. He pitted a couple of laps ago, and that created a gap between 6th and 7th position. So we should start to see things now, Nathan, die down a little bit. However, once all the strategies culminate at the end of the race and they're all on different sets of tyres, we can expect some big things.
Yep, I think we certainly will, and I think that was a key move there for Cameron, and he needs to do the same again soon on Daniele Prodi, because Daniele's lost that DRS already because of that 5-lap offset. So Cameron's got to get past him, ideally into turn 3, or if not, at last resort into turn 4, so he can try and get back in that DRS of Istvan Pukki and Nicholas Longay. Nobody committing to the pit lane this time around, so that tells me probably all of these drivers now in the top 12 are committing to the one-stop. 13th and below are going for that two-stop, and if they're not, they're just going for a ridiculously early undercut, one-stop and go for that undercut, but I don't think we'll get to the end this early on, as Cameron Dowds does make that move ahead of Daniele Prodi and jumps up into P15. He's 1.6 seconds away from Nicholas Longay, so he's got a lot of time to gain here if he wants to jump back up within a second of those two. But if he can get back within a second, that's probably going to give him easily a top 10 finish here. And
we don't do a fastest lap point here in WOR, but Cameron Dowds has just taken the fastest lap of this race. A 1minute 5.531. If someone could please go back on the stream and let me know how competitive that was in qualifying. That feels like it was a top time. That's brilliant. That is incredible from Cameron Dowds. Jarno Opmeer's got the pace as well, but unfortunately he just doesn't have the track position whatsoever. So that's a real shame for Jarno, but we know the pace is there with the 3-time WOR champion, with the reigning F1 sim racing champion. Don't count him out. I mean, anything can happen from this point onwards, but this is cookie cutter for most races here in WOR, Nathan, that in the midpoint of the race, when we're getting towards those first pit stops, it kind of does die down a little bit, but then after that, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, with the undercut going for the likes of Pukki, Longay, Dowds, against Lund, Klaffenbach and Gal, who are going to have fresher tyres, that will make some great racing as this race progresses.
Indeed, and Jono Artins was also saying that the one-stop should be roughly between lap 15 and 17. So once we start to see drivers pit on lap 15, they're probably committed to a one-stop strategy. So that will make things very interesting as this race goes along. as that we make our way through. And Will Lewis with a penalty, 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Big shame there for Will Lewis, the first of that sort of penalty to be handed out in this race. And with how close the field are, 3 seconds is just not what you need. Around some tracks, it's not the worst penalty, but here it is really harmful to your race.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Will Lewis. Van Erven gets back through on Tycho Hardy. We've seen Reece Linton duck into the pit lane, and that will be the first of the one-stoppers to come into the box. So we'll see how this strategy plays out for them. Nicholas Longue, he overtakes Istvan Pukki to lead all of the hard runners. And now at this point of the race, Nathan, we have got an exact 50-50 split. The top 10 all on the medium tyres that they started on, and then the bottom 10 all coming in at some point or another. Ikebana pitted 9 laps ago, Parodi 8 laps ago, but then the likes of Linton, Jabo Konyi, they've pitted in the last lap or so. As Jarno Opmeer, he's getting his elbows out with Reece Linton, who's just come back out onto the circuit. Opmeer's up into 18th position ahead of Xander Van Dyken, and here it is, Tamas Gau, Crozen, Clay, Lewis, Peresneda, they're all into the pit lane, and that comes with some speeding. Tamas Gau, Nathan, 10-second penalty.
That is harsh. That is horrible there for Tamas Gau. I think that kind of gets rid of any opportunity for points here for Tamas, and considering he's a reserve, he's probably not going to be here every week, and that is not what he wants. If he ever wants a chance at doing well in this championship, he probably will walk away with 0 points from this round. But also, for the drivers further back, that gives them more of an opportunity to score more points in this race as we head our way back up to the top of the hill at turn number 3. Jarno Opmeer closing in nicely on the back of Reece Linton. Of course, he's committed to that 2-stop, and I believe Tamas Gau will be going for a 1-stop along with Clay, Lewis, Peresneda, Van Erven and Tycho Hardy. And then, of course, we still have our top 3 of Klaffenbach, London West still staying out, as Joris Crozen and Jarno Opmeer still battle side by side, and no move can be made by Jarno. But remember, he's on 5-lap older tyres, so it should be difficult for him to get past, as we do now see our top 2 head into the top 3 head into the pits.
Yeah, Klaffenbach just took the lead, headed up through Remus at turn number 3, just this lap gone. Joris Crozen has got through on Jarno Opmeer, so lots of moves being made, but now the last of the medium runners are coming into the pit lane. That will unleash Nicholas Longue and Istvan Pukki at the very front of the order to lead this race. Now we got to keep up and see where everyone will come out, and it'll be pretty difficult to differentiate all of the different strategies that we're seeing at play here, but certainly the top 6, they're on a 2-stop. Then Tamas Gau, the leading 1-stop runner, but he has got a 10-second time penalty. That will promote Reece Linton to the essential race lead of the 1-stop runners. Then Klaffenbach and Crozen, they're having a nice little scrap. Klaffenbach on cold tyres, that means he's vulnerable to the attack from Crozen, although slightly fresher tyres strapped onto the Kick Sauber, he'll be able to muscle him out just for the time being, but don't think that Joris Crozen will take that one lying down. Nathan, with just about, this time by, it'll be 20 laps to go. It's really hotting up here.
It certainly is, and Shonika Clay there making an easy move past Jarno Opmeer. It almost looked like Jarno let him pass. He just pulled over to the left-hand side, and Shonika Clay went swooping around the outside. So, yep, Jarno definitely not the best of his races here this season, but, you know, even though he's had a poor start, he's still P13. There's still a chance here for him to jump up into the top 10, as we do see Pukki and Longue swap around at the front once more in this race. And then, of course, Cameron Dowds, because he didn't get back within a second of our top 2, it's now just meant he's going to lose time every lap, and unfortunately he's now 3.1 seconds back as Chontos gets ahead of Bayana, as Ika there I think went off the circuit slightly and has a bit of a slide on, well, heading back onto track. But I've got to say, that was it's been a great recovery here by Chontos, because he was down with Jarno Opmeer and now sits up into the top 5, given that he's still 7 seconds off the lead, and that's not what we normally see here in league racing. And I suppose that's the good thing about having all these mixed strategies. Everything changes around so much.
Absolutely. As we check back in with the midfield scrap, Joris Crozen getting his hands dirty with Leo Lund in the scrap as well. Lund with 1 lap fresher tyres than Joris Crozen. He's got them up to temperature and is now taking the fight to the Dutchman. Shonika Clay is involved in the scrap as well. Jarno Opmeer following in behind, but he's keeping up very loosely to these guys. certainly Jarno is struggling with the pace here this evening, although we've seen him posting pretty good lap times so far today. It's just the card that the hand that he was dealt after such a poor qualifying. So we check in with Leo Lund. He's not really looking for the move on Joris Krozen this time by, and in fact Lund might have to look in his mirrors at Shanika Clay, who, I gotta say, Nathan, looking very racy today. He's been in and around the top 10 the entirety of this race so far, now finds himself in the train with the leading one-stoppers. So certainly Shanika Clay, we have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely. He's got a lot of pace in that Aston Martin, and I've got to say, I kind of expected him to be near the bottom end of things, but as he doesn't race nowhere near as much as he used to. But great to see Shanika back up there with some top pace, and they're looking to challenge the back of Leo Lund and Joris Krozen as they make their way into turns 9 and 10 once again. And Leo was looking for an opportunity to go ahead of Joris Krozen, but had to back out at the final minutes as we head our way through turn number 10 and back down to turn 1 once again. And it will be lap 19 now of 36 in this Grand Prix. Further ahead, it looks like there was a move being made. I think it was Shanika Clay looking to close in on Leo Lund, taps the back of the Ferrari as they make their way out of turn 1. And well, if they keep battling like this, Jarno Opmeer is going to have a sniff of a move potentially, as well as Will Lewis.
Absolutely, and these guys are taking their tyres out of the equation, as here comes Will Lewis down the inside of Jarno Opmeer. 5-lap fresher, hard tyres strapped onto that Mercedes. Jack West is now taking the fight to Jarno Opmeer, who continues to sink through the field. The Flying Dutchman has had his wings well and truly clipped here in Austria. It's been a difficult race for him thus far, and he's still got the likes of Presneda, Van Erven, even Jabba Konyi on fresher tyres behind him. This will be difficult for Jarno Opmeer, but of course he's on a different strategy to these guys. He won't be in a strong position now, but once he comes back into the pit lane, then he certainly will be, as Daniele Parodi will come into the pit lane at the end of lap number 19 onto lap number 20. He'll be taking off that very worn out set of hards. What tyres will it be for the V-Carb? It's another set of the hards. That is to be expected, as Shanika Clay, Nathan, gets a 3-second time penalty.
We've jinxed Shanika now as well. Brilliant. So Shanika Clay is also going to struggle here to get points now because of his 3-second penalty. As Presneda makes a move past Jarno Opmeer, or at least attempts to, but no fight at all there from Jarno. And that also allows Matthias Van Erven to close in, and it just isn't going well at all, is it, for Jarno Opmeer today? No. Big shame here, as we do see Matthias just shoot up the inside and gets that move complete, and Jarno Opmeer down to P16 in this race. And give it a lap or two, Ben Shabakonyi probably will be making the move, never mind, into turn 6.
God.
And he gets ahead of Jarno Opmeer. Just, I don't really have any words to say.
Fair enough, is all I can really say to Ben Shabakonyi there. He didn't need to go for the move, but he decided, why not? As Ikerbane is coming to the pit lane, that will allow Tamas Gal through and into some clear air, and we will see the gap between Tamas and Gabor Chontos, because that is where the real pace is. That top 4, they are all the leading hard runners in this race, as Shanika Clay still looking for the move on Leo Lund despite taking a time penalty. And there you can see the gap on the left hand side of your screen. About 2.5 seconds is separating the 2 Hungarian drivers of Gabor Chontos and Tamas Gal on alternate strategies here. I'm very excited to see how this race will pan out, as what has happened there. We've seen a lot of moves being made. Nathan, I didn't quite catch that one, did you?
I think Will Lewis, I don't know if it was contact, but I did see him re-entering at the exit of turn 3, and he did lose 2 spots due to it there. So I think there might have been a bit of contact there between Will Lewis and one of the other drivers here on track, and that's now put him down to P12, and he was up into that top 10. Well, that's also brought once again Shanika Clay back to the rear of Leo Lund, looking to close in and possibly make a move himself. Of course, the penalty will definitely punish his race result, but either way, he can still prove he's got the pace here by finishing up in that top 10. And then we do see Gabor Chontos as well committing to the pit lane. He's on a 2-stop strategy. The same goes for Nicholas Longate, Cameron Dowds and Istvan Pukki. And then I presume everybody else here will be going to the end, apart from Jarno Opmeer. I presume he'll be pitting again, but I mean, at this point, is there any point of him pitting again? Because he's just going to drop back, what, 20 seconds behind everyone?
Yeah, it's just a difficult situation for Jarno Opmeer. He wanted to pit on the lap that he did, but unfortunately, Gabor Chontos is his teammate today, and they pitted at the exact same time. But he was eliminated in Q1. You know, he's sort of done this to himself as Jan Watmir, and the pace has certainly been there, but these two fatal errors really have just ruined his race. As Ben Jabo Konyi is down the inside of Philip Presneder. Slight bit of wheel banging between the pair of them. Jabo Konyi feeling the pressure from Matthijs van Erven, and that led to him locking up and almost taking out Philip Presneder. Lots of blue icons on your screens. It's pretty difficult to see who is who, but that is certainly one green car into the pit lane and another silver one following behind him. Nicolas Longe and Istvan Pukki now, Nathan, they are into the pit lane for another set of the hard compounder tyres, and the two leading two-stoppers are into the box.
Now, does Cameron Dowds stay out and go for a one-stop? Because he's got 6 seconds for Tamas Gal, but he was 6 seconds back from Longe and Pukki, who came out in P12 and 14, so he'd come out of the pits pretty much at the back in P16, so is it worth him trying to extend that little bit extra, possibly?
I don't know. Will those tyres make it to the end of this race?
They'll struggle, but I don't think they'll get to 100%. I think it'll just be the fact of, if you commit to it, you've just got to hope you don't get a puncture. But, you know, he'll drop down to P16 at the moment, or P15 at least, and then he's got to work his way back through everyone. I mean, it's only a suggestion. He probably will hit anyway, but at the moment his pace is looking equal with Tamas Gal. But never mind, I think he's hitting.
So all that talk for Cameron Dowds.
Good nothing.
I mean, we know Cameron's dad is watching the stream, Nathan. He could certainly be in his ear and listening to your advice, but unfortunately, Cameron Dowds into the pit lane. That will unleash Tamas Gal into the lead of this race. And let's have a look at the gap to the leader, Nicolas Longe, just 3 seconds behind. Is that right? Yeah, just 3 seconds behind Tamas Gal. Or about just under 4 seconds behind Tamas Gal in the lead. So he is right at the rear of this train. He's actually in the thick of things, and he's up the inside, heading now of Matthijs van Erven down in towards turn at number 3. Easy move with 8 lap fresher hard tyres. Istvan Pukki will follow on through, and this will be a very exciting end to this race as Jack West and Shanaka Clay, their battle still continues on. It's Jack West down the inside of Shanaka, headed through turn at number 4, gets the move done through turn at number 5, and finally, after what's felt like 10,000 laps, Jack West is through on Shanaka Clay.
And we can see here Cameron Dowds. I'm interested to see what his pace is going to be like, because of course we've seen greatness here from Longe and Pukki on this opening stint as Longe goes up the inside of Presneder and jumps up into P9, but I want to see what that pace is like in clean air. And the gap was 7 seconds heading into turn 4. It's now 6.4 seconds here, so there's lots of opportunity for Cameron Dowds, and that obviously goes for Nicolas Longe and Pukki as well, who are just literally carving the field. P8 now for Nicolas Longe. It's probably going to be a P7 by the time he gets to the top of the hill at turn number 3. Does make the move. Pukki ahead of his teammates. Will Lewis, and then Shanaka Clay's next on the list for Istvan Pukki. I mean, there's no way surely that these two don't get 1-2 here, because they are flying on that pace. And Cameron Dowds, 5.3 seconds back. He is, what, 2 seconds in 1 lap?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are just carving their way through the field. Nicolas Longe and Pukki especially. Will Lewis really did not want to let Nicolas Longe through at turn number 1, but Nico forced the issue. Will Lewis backed out, and that was great racing between the pair of them. Then Istvan Pukki made the move on Will Lewis down the straight. Nicolas Longe is going for it on Jack West, headed in towards turn number 9, and he does get that one done. So he's just forcing these other drivers to back out of the move because they're certain for contact. I'd imagine he's going to do the exact same thing, headed through turn number 1. He doesn't even need to do it because he's got that much overspeed on Leo Lund. And now, this is interesting because Istvan Pukki, he really doesn't want any cars between himself and Nicolas Longe, but he's losing some pace by getting caught out by these other drivers. He's got to get a move on and try and keep up with Nico.
He certainly has, but I was watching as well, crucially, when Istvan Pukki was making his way through on Jack West. Jack did that little communication method of turning off and on the DRS consistently down to turn 1 and basically saying to Istvan, go on up the inside, make the move. So drivers here aren't even bothering fighting with them because they've just got that much pace under their belts here, as we do see now. Longe up into P4, he's on the back of Klaffenbach, Linton and Tamas Gal, and I presume he'll be in the lead very shortly. And Cameron Dowds in P15 also on the same strategy has brought that gap down to 2.4 seconds. That's nearly 5 seconds in 2.5, 3 laps here for Cameron Dowds. So it just shows what these three are able to do on their newer tyres as Presnader goes into the pits. So I'm not sure what he's trying to do here in this race, but it's something different, and that is for sure. Is he trying to go onto possibly a set of the mediums just because he knows how much the offset gains just on the hards, never mind on a set of the softer compound of tyre. As here comes Nicholas Longay to the inside of Klaffenbach, who actually looks for a move on the Haas of Reese Linton. 3 wide into turn 3, does not go, and one of them has to head off the circuit.
Unbelievable stuff there, and they've all kept their front wings intact, which I think is the main thing, but Reese Linton will certainly be feeling hard done by, as Nicholas Longay will go down the inside of Klaffenbach this time, but Klaffenbach very aggressive on the brakes there, does not want to give that position up, and it almost took out Reese Linton in the process, who lost that place to Istvan Pukki. Now Pukki is on the back of Julian Klaffenbach and will want to go through as soon as possible. Now, in terms of the one-stop runners, behind the two leaders of Nicholas Longay, the two-stop runners of Nicholas Longay and Istvan Pukki, behind them, Daniele Parodi in P10 started this race right down in 20th position, now running in P10, Nathan. He has absolutely banged it with the strategy today.
Certainly, I think we kind of writ him off a little bit too early at the start because he went for that 2-stop and I thought, oh, he's just trying something different, you know, he's going to be nowhere. But he's in the top 10 and quite comfortably as well. He'll be looking just to push forward rather than go backwards as Longay takes the lead of the race ahead of Tamas Gal, who goes back up ahead of him as we head our way back down to turn number 4. And the same goes for Pukki on Klaffenbach, looking to try and jump onto the podium spots. They go. Klaffenbach to the inside of Tamas Gal as Longay takes the lead of the Grand Prix, and Pukki just looking for somewhere to go, possibly to the inside of both of them as they head their way into turns 5 and 6, and it could be 3 wide, and that's contact, and that's Tamas Gal round at turn number 6. It was an ambitious send from Pukki, and unfortunately that ends in the Alpine around and probably out of the race because of that 10-second time penalty.
3 wide in towards turn number 6 is foolish from these guys, and there will certainly be some sort of steward's inquiry heading into the end of this race. But yeah, that is poor from those guys. I think Istvan Pukki, he knows he's got the pace. He does not want to lose Nicholas Longay. He was caught between a rock and a hard place because if he goes for the move, they're going to collide. If he doesn't go for the move, Longay's going to romp away with the race. And unfortunately, both has happened anyways, as Istvan Pukki is back up the inside of Julian Klaffenbach, who in his own right has been defending these positions, admittedly, a little bit too harshly, in my opinion. Longay and Pukki are much quicker, as Tamas Gal, he's losing more positions. Cameron Dowds is through on him. This just promotes everyone else up through the field, but wow, that really has, it's sort of over-bubbled down in towards lap number 28.
It certainly has, and I'd like to make a comment from a comment in the chat. A legend of the Tier 1 commentary, Mark 2 Deathbridge, put a comment in saying Pukki might have to try something different stuck in the train here. It might be worth looking for something in the middle sector. He put that in just before Istvan Pukki took out Tamas Gal.
Yeah.
So we pretty much called that one.
And that is I mean, he's not from the grave, but that is a commentator's curse.
A grave.
Well, you know, he used to be here, of course, before you were around, Nathan, and before the great...
A lot longer before I was around, yeah.
Yeah, what, season 12 and 13, I guess we must have been together. Before you and before the great Ryan Jacobs, there was myself and Luke Etheridge. And Luke...
Fan of the sneak.
I mean, Luke's doing a great amount of stuff by himself, so I'm very, very proud of what's come of Luke in...
Great to see him here in the chat, because we haven't seen him for a very long time, so great to have Luke here watching along.
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome in everyone to PC Tier 1. We are not short on drama on a return to streaming and a return to Season 21. Can you believe that the last time we were racing was 272 days ago, and now we're back in the cockpit, and we're certainly not short on any drama whatsoever. We are watching Cameron Dowds putting the attack on Shanika Clay. Cameron Dowds is on 6-lap-old hard tyres. Shanika Clay 15 laps on his set. This should be a night and day difference between Cameron and Shanika, as off the exit of the final corner, headed down the main straight. There it is, easy as you like from Cameron Dowds.
Indeed, and now moves up into P9, and what a race it has been. What a debut for Cameron, Daniele as well, up into the top 10. These two have done an outstanding job so far. And then I think as well, Nicholas Longay and East Van Pookie, that strategy has worked immense for them. I mean, you wouldn't have thought that 8 laps ago they were P12 and 14. It only took them about 6 or 7 laps to jump up into P1 and 2. So they controlled it from start. They had a bit of just pushing through, and now to the end they're probably going to control the race once again, as we do see Matthias van Erven getting ahead of Tamas Gal, and those two made contact earlier on, and I think they made contact again. So maybe a personal dispute between the Williams and the Alpine driver here in this race this evening. But yeah, Van Erven up into P12 and could also be on the card for some points here, because of course Will Lewis and Shanika Clay both have 3 second time penalties. So what a race this could be for the Williams of Matthias van Erven.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthias van Erven, of course, he hasn't been on the podium in WOR P6. Oh, of course, he's not in contention today, but he hasn't been on the podium since season 11. The first season of WOR was the PC Tier 1 was the last time we saw Matthias van Erven feature in the top 3. It's good to see him taking part today. We are watching at the minute Tamas Gal, who continues to sink through the field down in towards 15th position. And this is just the worst track in the world for him, it seems. He has come P16 in season 16, P17 in season 18, where he was actually competitive in that race, but then got relegated due to a penalty, which is actually quite similar to what we've seen today, because regardless of how that incident panned out, he would have still had a 10-second time penalty to deal with. So seems like Tamas Gal, Nathan, really not a fan of this circuit.
No, certainly not, and that is a big shame for Tamas, because I think he suffered a lot with the lack of confidence last game. I think we saw that in F1 sim racing, and obviously starting off this game he wants to kind of go in strong and prove, you know, I'm one of the best, and when you have incidents like that and penalties, it just ruins your confidence heading into the next round and into other championships. So got to say, there's a lot for Tamas Gal to do this game, and hopefully he can regain some confidence and get back up there, because in terms of qualifying pace he's one of the best on the grid comfortably, but when it comes to race pace and confidence, he's not there at all. So hopefully he can build it up as this game goes along. It's very deep there for Daniele Parodi, and that brings Cameron Dowds alongside on the exit of turn 3, and through into P8 goes Cameron Dowds, and now 2 positions away from his teammates Leo London. In between is Jack West, who's also having a brilliant race in that McLaren.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the positions gained in this race, because it's certainly been an up and down event for many drivers. Nicholas Longay, he's up 2 spots. Klaffenbox gained 2 in this one as well. Look at the 2 Haas drivers. Bear in mind, these 2 are the only full-time driver pairing on the grid present tonight. Joris Krozen and Reese Linton making up a combined 11 places in this race. Krozen is up 5, Linton is up 6. But how about that? The biggest mover in this race is sitting in P9 at the minute. Daniele Parodi on his, not only his PC Tier 1 debut, his WOR debut tonight, Nathan. Daniele Parodi certainly stamping himself as a talent for the future. Unbelievable race he's had today.
Indeed, certainly, as we do see there, Leo Lund go for a send. That's ambitious. Looking to get ahead of Reese Linton. He's got to be side by side, can't make the move. And next we have behind Cameron Dowds. He's on the back, alongside Jack West. As we head down to turn 4, as we've got a couple of laps to go, these moves need to be made now. As Jack goes deep, through goes Cameron, up into P6, a bit of tyre hook in there, bit of contact between those two. As further ahead still, we have Reese Linton and Leo Lund having a battle. This is brilliant work by all of these drivers here. P5 down to P8, and then Daniele Parodi as well, looking to close in and make some moves as we head on to the penultimate lap of the race, and the top 3 have absolutely checked out here in this one. So the battle now to P4 and below, and then between Longay, Pookie and Klaffenbach to see who's where on that podium spot. But surely it's between our top 2 is what's happened behind.
Is it yellow flagged? Is that Ikebana? Indeed it is, down right at the bottom of the field. Very unfortunate for him. So we check back in with the leaders of Istvan Pookie and Nicholas Longay. Pookie will retake the lead on lap number 35. And could this be Nicholas Longay setting up an attack for the final lap? We'll have to wait and see. They're still scrapping it out for P5 and P7 respectively. And Leo Lund has finally, Nathan, got the move done on Reese Linton. But Cameron Dowd still struggling to get through on Jack West.
Go for the move. These 2 have been very hostile on track so far, and the Ferrari finally gets that move done. Jack West down to P8, and Cameron now will be looking to try and get ahead of Reese Linton, who went very deep into turn 3. Either that, or he made a bit of contact between himself and Leo Lund. So we'll have to see after the race what goes on between that one. But Leo, I don't think it's his debut, but I don't think he's ever been higher than like P8, P9 here in WOR Tier 1. So for himself, Cameron, Daniele Parodi, a brilliant start to their campaigns here in PC Tier 1, and surely they'll now be on that list where, you know, they're not really a last resort reserve. They should be on that full reserve list because they can drive perfectly fine here in WOR Tier 1. But here we go, last lap of the race. And the top three are having their battle for the lead, and it's now just between the top two as Julian Klaffenbach has fell outside the DRS.
And here comes Nicholas Longe. He did not opt to go for the move in towards turn number 3 to set up for Schloss Gold. Istvan Pukki defending very heavily to the inside line. Is that Nicholas's opportunity squandered in this race on lap number 36? Istvan Pukki has now just got to navigate 1.5 sectors until he takes victory in this race. He has finished second position here before. Last time we came here in season 18. He's going to do one better in season 21 through the final 2 corners for Istvan Pukki. Nicholas Longe gave it his best effort. It's a 4th podium for him, as now to come across the line, Istvan Pukki will take victory ahead of Nicholas Longe. It is P3 for Julian Klaffenbach in his home race. An incredible end to this one. Joris Krozen comes home in P4, P5 for Leo Lund, and Cameron Dowds, how about that in P6? Ferrari, a great race for the pair of them, but it's Istvan Pukki, Nathan, taking victory.
And well, look at P10, Jarno Opmeer got into the points because it was Matthias van Erven with a puncture on those 21 lap old cars. He got a puncture, collected Gamble Chontos, and that allowed Jarno Opmeer through. And because of the penalties for Shannon Clay and Will Lewis, he's into the top 10. And it seems like Jarno Opmeer is the only person that can do that. He looked out of the race. If it was anybody else, there's no point, he's not going to get any points. But somehow he makes it happen. And into P10 for the Flying Dutchman.
And, well, Matthijs van Erven, he'll come across the line with 22 lap old hard tyres. These drivers had the exact same age as him. Joris Krozen in 4th. Reese Linton had an extra lap on them. Wow, incredible stuff. Imagine if one of those two got a puncture heading into the final couple of corners. Matthijs van Erven wasn't really in the fight for a top position, but those guys certainly were, especially Joris Krozen. If he got a puncture, that would have been drama up the wazoo. But nevertheless, what a race that was. Istvan Pukki took the victory ahead of Nicholas Longe, and Julian Klaffenbach, he takes a podium in his home race. How about that? I mean, Klaffenbach as well, last time we came here in season 18, he finished just off the podium in P4, and now he's taken P3, so I'd imagine the upwards trajectory is certainly there for the likes of Pukki and Klaffenbach. Nicholas Longe still continues to be the most successful driver around this circuit, taking his 4th podium around here in 8 races. But there it is, the podium celebrations coming towards an end, and we can skip along that. Here's all your drivers of the day. Fastest lap goes to Tamas Gau. Driver of the day is Daniele Parodi, as expected. Most overtakes is Reese Linton, and I didn't even know this existed. I think that must be new for F1 25. Yeah. Nathan, quickly take us through the results.
Well, I've only got 9 seconds, so we'll go quickly. Pukki, Longe, Klaffenbach, Krozen, Lund, Dowds, Linton, West, Parodi, Opmeer, Shabakony, Clay, Lewis, Van Dijken, Chontos, Presneder, Gal, Van Erven, Hardy, Baena.
10 out of 10.
There we go.
10 out of 10 there, Nathan. You got it right in the nick of time. That was incredible. And incredible like this race was. I mean, how about that for the return to the return to WOR PC. It's because of the PC bit.
Can't let Connor hear that comment now.
No.
He's going to be having a go at Luke the whole time now for that.
Yeah, whoops. WOR continues to be the world's racing league, you got to say. But we do have a certain podium finisher in the interview room with us today. Julian, can you hear me, my friend?
I can hear you, yeah.
Right, first and foremost, congratulations on taking P3 in your home race. That one's got to feel good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it was a very interesting race, let's say. but yeah, happy to finish in P3. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, your home race as well. That's got to feel better than any other race to pick up a podium. Of course, you've finished P4 here in the past. You know, it's got to feel better being your home track and all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in general, as already 2 days ago, we were doing E-Series, so not a lot of practice, and now going into this first round, obviously, unfortunately, not that many main drivers driving today, but I think it was still a nice effort from my side and also from the engineer. So I'm very happy to have finished on the podium, and yeah, it was a great race. So yeah.
Yeah, of course, F1 25. This is the first time you're starting. Well, you are starting with RHG. You know, you're starting this game off a part of a team. Have they been helping you prepare for the upcoming season of WOR? You know, what's it like behind the scenes?
It's been a lot of work, a lot of driving behind the scenes. I mean, obviously, I guess every esports team is doing that right now, but in the end, it just matters who is doing it the best. And I think maybe in PSG Level 1 we weren't able to show it so far, but already with some decent results in E-Series, and now with this podium, maybe even win if we maybe consider the moves from Isvan and Nico. Very happy with the progress so far, and I think if we keep that up, we can definitely keep doing well in this championship.
Yeah, next time out we are headed to Saudi Arabia. How are you feeling around that track?
I think pretty good actually. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting race for sure with the DRS train, and we never know how it's gonna be with the engine maybe blowing up in the heat of Jeddah. But we will see how that will work out, and yeah, definitely excited to go there racing.
Yeah, well, that's all from me. Really big congratulations, Nathan. Anything you want to say to Julian here?
Indeed. So, Julian, great to have you with us once again. It was only 2 days ago I was speaking to you once again for a podium, so it seems podiums are quite common for yourself so far at the start of this game, but surely, you know, having so many podiums in different leagues, different, you know, competitors as well, it's going to give you a lot of confidence, isn't it, heading into, you know, the later rounds of the seasons when, you know, those points really matter a lot more.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, obviously it's bringing in a lot of confidence, but I just wouldn't let that sit on myself. I think we just still need to keep working hard and to get even better, and maybe even better than the others, because that's in the end the goal. And yeah, I just think that we still need to keep going and give everything every single week, as the rest doesn't really matter in the end. So yeah.
Certainly, but a great result, great drive here tonight, and hopefully we'll see you back on the podium once again in the future here in WOR. So have a good evening, enjoy your week, and we'll hopefully see you again next time.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you very much to Julian Klaffenbach for joining us in the interview room, and what a race he had. He was very, very aggressive with his driving today, but that's what you like. He's a very young driver as well, I think. Last I knew, he was 14. So maybe he's had a birthday since then.
Now.
I have no idea. Truth be told to you.
See, there was a rumour that he was meant to drive last season in F1 Sim Racing, but he was 15 at the time. But this year he'd be old enough to, I think. So, I don't know.
Well, there we go. Yeah, I'd imagine I got all the dates wrong. Actually, I was looking at his Twitter feed. I thought he joined RHG in January this year, but it was actually last year, because I thought we were still in 2024. I'm still making that mistake.
Dan?
Hello?
We got some breaking news from Will Lewis. His pen's removable. He could still be on for a top 10.
Well in, Will. We'll of course see all of the stewards' inquiries. There will certainly be some discussion to be had. You gotta say, Istvan Pukki, Tamas Gal, and Julian Klaffenbach, that 3-wide incident in towards turn at number 6, the Verth curve, where barely one car can really fit through there, that's difficult. And I mean, certainly the stewards will be having a look at that one.
Oh, Will Lewis joined the waiting for interview room, and then he left. No.
Disappointing. We're not getting an interview, unfortunately, with Nicholas Longe. He says he had to go. I'd imagine that Istvan Pukki will also not be joining us. So I think that brings us to the end of everything, unless, Nathan, there's anything in particular you want to talk about.
Just a big thank you to everyone for joining us yet again. We had over 600 people watching during parts of that race. It's great to see everybody back here supporting the World Online Racing League, and of course great to have everybody back in the chat as usual. And of course hopefully we'll have more of our full-time drivers on the grid in the next coming weeks. This is very much a one-off. I mean, even in the F124 game when it was bad, we never had 14 reserves driving very often. So, don't worry, things will be back to normal, and you'll see the much of your fan favourites on track very soon. And hopefully, a bit more from Jarno Opmeer, because that was definitely a weird one, wasn't it? It wasn't. It's weird to say bad because he never does bad, does he? It was weird.
I mean, he made 2 critical errors, didn't he, Jarno Opmeer? Yep. He messed up his qualifying, where around a circuit like Austria, you'd think that it's easy to overtake, given that there's 3 DRS zones back to back to back. But this track, it just farms DRS trains. You want to be towards the front, and then of course he pitted right behind Gabor Chontos. They're not in a VC together. Gabor is a reserve driver, so he couldn't have predicted that at all. It's just unlucky, but at the same time, you do get a notification when your teammate's in the pit lane. However, it's a pretty long entry, so probably Jarno was already in there. And it was just too late for him to come out. So yeah, difficult race for Jarno Opmeer. Still managed to pick up a P10 finish without any stewards inquiries. I can never get that word right. But yeah, we will hopefully be seeing a few more full-time drivers in the coming weeks. We are headed to Saudi Arabia next, which will be very, very fun. You also all got to remember, it's the holiday season. Not Christmas, but everyone's going to be jetting off to their favourite location. I won't be here next week. I'm going on holiday with my family for the first time in 2 years, so I'm very excited for that one. But you will be in the very capable hands of Nathan and a mystery commentator. No. We don't know who it is yet, but we'll certainly have someone probably much better than me to fill my seat here today.
Can we bring Will Lewis in, Dan? He's in the waiting room.
Go on then. Let's bring him in. Hello, Will.
Hello. How we doing?
I'm alright. How are you doing?
Well, I suck, bro. I don't know what's happened. I'm washed. I fell off. It ain't my year, man.
Well,
but nah, I'm alright.
It weren't bad. It wasn't a bad race from yourself. I mean, if the penalties are removable, the top 10's still on.
Yeah, well, it should be for the amount of chaos that was in front, to be honest, because I've heard a lot of people shouting in VCs, so from what I've heard, I think it should be. Honestly, I might even win the race at this rate, but yeah, no, it was, mate, I just don't know how to, I don't know how to look after the tyres, man. Like, people who have picked the same lap of me have about 15% better. I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, do you feel quite lucky that you were on 90% towards the end, but Matthijs got a double puncture with 80% wear?
No, because I think it just comes down to that you have to talk to the tyres. You have to make sure they're all right. And I clearly do that extremely well.
You named them?
No, mate, I don't have time for that. Get rid of them too quickly.
You burned through them completely. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
You're a reserve driver this season, but are we, given that there's 14 reserves on the grid, surely we can expect you next week in Saudi?
Yeah, I hope so, mate, because after that performance, that cannot be my league racing debut, so I'm pretty much wiping that one from the records.
Yeah.
And we'll be going again in Saudi once I've done some race practice and hopefully can get back on the grid.
Yeah, surely that can't be your league racing legacy for F125, is that you pooed the bed in Austria. But I'll tell you what,
I did not poo nothing, man. I did not poo nothing. Maybe a little bit, but no. I mean, to be honest, I think quali pace was surprisingly good considering it was Austria. I was quite happy. Well, I was happy and not happy because the lap I did in session was terrible, but to be honest, the pace in practice was looking really good. I think it was just for me a lack of race prep. Yeah. Which, to be honest, is only down to me because I quite like partying on a Friday and a Saturday. So, but yeah, no, it's only down to me. We'll have to sit on race and figure out how to save the tyres because I can't continue driving like that, evidently. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I really do hope that we get to have an interview with you at some point of the season where it's more of an organised one, where we get to talk about your excellent podium or your fantastic win. But it's always good to hear from you, so thank you for coming in. And yeah.
It's all good, boys. It's all good. Appreciate the commentary as per usual.
Cheers. Right.
Thank you.
I guess that's time, Nathan, that we close off.
It is.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. It has now been 0 days since WOR has been on your screen. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in today. Bit of a different one with 14 reserves on the grid, but I'd imagine as everyone comes back from their holidays in the coming weeks and summer comes to an end, people will want to be in their cars more. They want to be practicing for the upcoming F1 sim racing season. Thank you so much for tuning in today and sticking with us through what was a very good race. Honestly, it wasn't like these reserve drivers were just a level below all the main guys, because it was a brilliant mix of talent here today, and I'm very happy that we got the pleasure of commentating over it. If you want to check out WOR on our social medias, it is World Online Racing F1 on TikTok, and it's at WOR League on Twitter. And make sure, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. It's right below our big fat head, so please make sure you hit that there. And if you want to keep up to date with all your WOR news, you want to keep up to date with the standings, with the stewards' findings, then you can join the Discord. The link will be in the description. If you want to follow myself on Twitter, it is at DanfieldF1_, and if you want to follow Nathan, it is at RichieF1 with the I's replaced by ones. So that has been round number 1 of season 21 ticked and off the charts. We are headed to Saudi Arabia next time out, so make sure you tune in 7 PM Sunday night. Thank you everyone, and good night.